Good day, Stinkhogha followers. Remember last week I said we're going to go over to Jay, our shark attack victim, and have an interview with him. So let's go over to his posse.
Okay, we're here today with Jason. We call him Jay, the Dawn Patrols. And Jay, we would like to know if you can tell us about your first wave you had and your first surfboard.
Okay, first surfboard I got, probably I was about 12 years old. It was a Lightning Bolt. Don't know, some kind of a replica or if it was the real deal. And my first wave that I actually surfed were like decades apart, because that first board was just not very good for me. It was too small. I struggled, actually gave up surfing, and then must have been about 15 years later I actually surfed my first wave at Banana Beach on KZN South Coast, where I remember paddling onto a wave and actually going sideways down the face of the wave, and that was like, for me, was like a game changer.
Okay, what I would also like to know, how old were you then when you were your first, at that stage when you ride that wave?
First wave, must have been about 25, 26 years old.
Okay, so you started late, you were not like a lighty.
No.
That's tough starting at that age. You know, especially if you surf on a small board.
Yeah, no, exactly. I did it all backwards. I should have, in hindsight, should have started on a longboard to make life easier, but you see all the good surfers on shortboards, so try to copy them and struggled, and perseverance paid off after a while, but I didn't have that patience when I was a lighty.
Another thing I want to ask is, why the hell do you surf?
I don't know, I enjoy it. I've always done, I've skateboarded, I've wakeboarded, I've snowboarded, and those things just became progressively harder and harder on my body, hitting like solid objects, so I decided, and surfing just, I don't know, it's a little bit, it's something that I could do like every day, living at a beach town, based in Kommetjie for summertime and now J-Bay in winter. It's nice to do that before work, get something done, clean the system, and then I can start my work day. So it's a nice process to kick off the morning, I guess.
Another thing, we all, as surfers, we are frightened of sharks. Now, you are one of the min-oaks. In actual fact, more people die taking selfies, coconuts falling on their head, and shark attacks. You should have played a lotto.
I used all my luck in one shot.
Do you mind to take us through what happened that morning and how it came about?
Yeah, so it's quite a bizarre situation actually. Surfing at Point, and that morning I was actually thinking about how lucky I am to be able to go surfing. It was such a nice morning. It was like calm, the waves were nice, and at the time there was all the riots going on in KZN, and my friends and my brother were like out on the street at night, and I just thought, this is beautiful here. I'm like so lucky to go for a surf and not have that kind of stress in my life, and paddled out with a friend of mine, Karen, and there was only one person out. Took my shortboard that morning instead of my longboard, and I was going to go and surf cheap, and I thought, well, let me just go left, I'll go to Point, because there's only one guy out, Pete. So Karen and I paddled out, and actually what I did what I do every morning when I go surfing is I start my GPS watch to record my surf, and started my watch, paddled out, got to where Pete was sitting, and a little wave was coming through. Karen was there as well. Pete, Karen and myself were all right there, like about 2 meters apart, and we weren't very far from the beach actually, because it wasn't big. It was about 50 meters out offshore, and a little wave looked like it was coming, and we were a bit deep, and we all started paddling a little bit wider, and the next thing, like while paddling, I just got snatched. And, I didn't know what happened. Just this loud banging sound, and the next thing I was in the water, and I knew straight away what had happened. I knew that a shark had hit me, but I thought it just bumped me off the board. I actually didn't know that I'd been bitten yet. I didn't feel anything. And so obviously there was a lot of thrashing in the water, and Karen and Pete were looking at me, and I grabbed my board to get back on, and as I did that I felt the bite marks underneath my board, so then I knew that the shark had its teeth out when it hit me. And I looked over and I could see my wetsuit was a bit torn on my back. So then I realized that I'd been bitten. Well, I didn't feel anything. There was no pain whatsoever. So Karen and Pete were staring at me, and I said to them, look, I've been bitten, we need to get out now. Let's come together and we'll just paddle in like next to each other, stay close together. And the whole thing was really bizarre because it was so calm. It was like neither of them were screaming. Obviously, we were all terrified, but everyone was actually like, they were such good participants to be involved with. And yeah, they just paddled towards me, and then just started paddling in. Next thing I heard Pete saying it's coming back. And I looked over and just saw it coming straight back towards us, and that's when I thought, okay, well, I'm finished now. There's no ways I'm going to make it to shore. Even though we were close, it felt like we were miles and miles away, like you realize how exposed you are at that point in time.
Vulnerable.
You've whether it's 100 meters or 2 meters, you've really got no say in the matter. And it just sat right next to us, and we started paddling, and the three of us were paddling together, and it sat right behind Karen's board. And Pete and I were saying, Karen, it's right behind you. And she looked back and obviously then saw it, lifted her legs up, because she was on a longboard, so her legs were out of the water, and fin was just cruising slowly behind us. And it didn't do anything. It was obviously confused as well, I'm guessing, got a mouthful of surfboard. It was quite a hard impact. The next thing there was like, I was on the shortboard, Pete and Karen were on the longboards, so I couldn't paddle as quickly as them, and I was in the middle of the two of them, and I started falling back a little bit. Yes, and all I could see was this fin, and it was like starting to like come up, like out, because I was falling back, it was almost like next to me, and I started panicking. So now getting close to shore, and the closer you get, the closer you can like smell the freedom, feel it, and I just said to Pete, I said, like, please Pete, you have to wait for me, I'm really scared. And if you think about that in hindsight, I was basically asking him to potentially give up his life for me, to wait for me, and he waited. And I caught up, and then the three of us carried on again, and this tiny little foamy came, and it was spring high, luckily, and paddled like mad, got on the foamy, and just straight in over the rocks onto the sand. And after that was I could see there was a big hole in my knee, but I didn't know what was going on my back. And I walked up the beach, and there were other guys getting in, and there was a lot of commotion because everyone obviously was in the parking lot. They saw the whole thing. They were busy suiting up, and Maua, my wife, was on the beach. She saw it, and she came running over to me, and I didn't know that I was so badly bitten on my back, and I just said to her, look, I'm going to have to see a doctor. And I turned around and showed her my back, and the next thing, I didn't see her face, but she said, like, her face, when she saw how badly it was, she was like quite panicked about the whole thing. And I just said, no, come, let's just get off the beach and we'll go sort this out. Walked up through a bunch of people, and I could see like
you could walk.
Yeah, I walked fine. I had no pain whatsoever. I didn't know what was going on, and I saw a lot of concerned faces. Obviously, they'd watched the whole thing, and they could also probably see how badly I was bitten. And the next thing, we were trying to figure out, like, what do we do now? Do we go to a hospital? I actually thought it's not that bad. I could see there was a massive hole in my knee, but it's just like, that'll get stitched up, it's fine, let's just get home and we'll go to a doctor. But I didn't realize I was losing so much blood, and eventually, we took my dog's lead, because my dog was down on the beach with Maua, and I took the lead, tied my leg off to stop this bleeding, because I was now standing in the parking lot in a pool of blood. And it wasn't like I hit any arteries or anything, but there were so many holes that blood was just like running out. And eventually Maua said, just lie down and we'll wait, and we'll get an ambulance, and there was someone else in the parking lot, I can't remember who, but they started phoning around, and then they ran down to the shark bite kit box that's in the parking lot, and called NSRI, and I mean, I was just lying there. I'm not exactly sure how it all happened, but you know, the next thing, there was also another guy. So someone in the parking lot called a friend of theirs who was an NSRI volunteer from Cape Town. His name is Russell, and he was, I believe, leaving J-Bay that day, and he was just around the corner. So he came down to the parking lot and kind of took everything under control until the paramedics arrived with the ambulances, took all the stuff out of the shark bite kit and showed us like what to do, like, because all these open wounds, this one was fine around my leg because we tied it so tight, but we didn't know how to stop the bleeding from my back, and there was just big holes there. So we packed all of the like gauze and bandages in there and wrapped me up in towels, and you know, like, the whole thing was actually quick. It felt like it took a long time, but from the time I paddled out, got bitten, and was back inshore in 4 minutes. The whole thing, from start to finish, was 4 minutes. I was back on the beach, and then
because your watch.
I was timing it on my watch. I got all my heart rate data and everything. You can see the minute I got bitten, my heart rate just starts going like this. Literally goes from like 100 and it you know, like paddling out, obviously paddling, you kind of reach a steady heart rate. Then I got smashed. My heart rate went up from there. Just makes this pyramid up to 188, which is like an all-time high for me. And I mean, I was pretty fit. I did a lot of running and cycling and all that, and I've never done a heart rate like that. And yeah, I mean, it was obviously just sheer panic, right? Adrenaline, and then the minute, you can see on the map, as I hit the sand, my heart rate just goes poof, and it just drops back down, and it sits at about 90 odd, while I was obviously just lying in the parking lot. Everyone's tending to me. So yeah, I mean, it's interesting data to look at, I guess. But I mean, the whole thing from start to finish, from the time I paddled out, 4 minutes back in, then it was like literally another 10 minutes, and there were 5 ambulances in the parking lot, and the paramedics cut my wetsuit off, did all that kind of stuff, started putting drips and things in, and I was in the ambulance, and they took me to Greenacres in PE. Gee, I guess I got lucky, and it just hit me once, and then it let go. You know, it didn't actually come back for a second. That changes everything. When you realize that you actually are a prey item, then the fear factor goes up substantially, I'm sure.
Hey, thanks, Jay. Thanks a lot.
No worries.
In case of emergency, find the shark bite kit box, phone the Sea Rescue emergency number, give him the location number. In this case it was P2. The Sea Rescue will give you a code to open the lock. From here on, you don't have to worry about a thing. Sea Rescue know now exact location where you are, and they'll send an ambulance to come and provide help. Keep it safe. I just want to thank Jay for sharing his experience with us today. He also asked me
to thank all the people that was involved that he didn't personally thank, and especially the NSRI for organizing the ambulances and getting everything there. Then he got a little request. We know those shark bite kits, the contents need to be replaced every now and then, and that costs money, and NSRI works only on as a non-profit organization, so if we can give some donations, that's the money they need to replace those kits. Thanks for all the scribes. I just want to say give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down, and remember, I love all of you. Cheers.